Let's get this bread, gang. Let's get this bread. Okay. Alrighty. We were working on this one. Okay, we're gonna be playing
in a new
Facts Matter with Roman Balmakov. 4 million people receive tax cuts with a new IRS update.
and highly anticipated document that was just released on the Federal Register's
Let's see
website.
it when I believe
The
it.
IRS finally provided some much-needed clarification regarding one of President Trump's more unique campaign promises, the elimination of the tax on tips. Now, the history of that campaign promise was a wild ride. If you remember, Trump came out with the no tax on tips platform seemingly out of the blue during one of his speeches. But it wound up being such a big hit based on polling that within about 2 weeks, the Kamala Harris campaign also came out with their own promise to also eliminate tax on tips.
No.
Now, of course, eventually
they weren't gonna do
Trump
that.
won the election.
They weren't going to
And
do that.
Congress included the no tax on tips provision within the text of the big, beautiful bill that was then signed into law by President Trump on July 4th of this year. And by the way, just as an aside, in the comments section, I noticed that some people question why I continue to call it the big, beautiful bill. That's literally the name of the bill. It's not just a moniker that Trump gave it. It's actually codified into law. At the very top, it says the One Big Beautiful Bill Act of 2025. Anyway, included in the text of that law is a provision which reads as follows, quote, "In the case of qualified tips received by an individual during any taxable year in the course of a trade or business, such qualified tips shall be taken into account under subsection A only to the extent that the gross income for the taxpayer exceeds the sum of the deductions allocable to the trade or business in which such qualified tips are received by the individual for such taxable year." Now, that's obviously a lot of legalese, and that's why lawyers get paid so much having to dissect that type of text. But in practical terms, what it means is that based on the numbers for the year 2025, this provision applies to anyone who makes less than $160,000 per year. The text of the law then continues to clarify, quote, "The term qualified tips means cash tips received by an individual in an occupation which customarily and regularly receive tips on or before December 31st, 2024, as provided by the Secretary." Now, the last sentence, as provided by the Secretary, refers to the Secretary of the Treasury, Mr. Scott Bessent. And so, since July of this year, when this bill was actually signed into law, Americans who receive tips have been eagerly awaiting the necessary follow-up document from Secretary Bessent on who exactly qualifies for this tax exemption, as well as what tips qualify, which finally came in the form of this document right here, released on the Federal Register's website, outlining the types of jobs as well as the types of tips that are eligible. And some of them are actually fairly surprising. The list is broken down into 8 separate categories, including beverage and food service, entertainment and events, hospitality and guest services, home services, personal services, personal appearance and wellness, recreation and instruction, and transportation
What are you
and delivery.
doing?
And then included among some of the more, you can say, surprising jobs that are exempted from paying tax on tips, you have the following.
I don't want that.
Sommeliers,
want
cocktail
that.
waiters, pastry chefs, cake bakers, bingo workers, club dancers, DJs, clowns, streamers, online video creators, ushers, maids, gardeners, electricians, house cleaners, food truck drivers, wedding planners, personal care aides, tutors, au pairs, massage therapists, yoga instructors, cobblers, skydiving pilots, ski instructors, parking garage attendants, delivery drivers, and movers. Now, I have personally never tipped anyone during a bingo game, but the IRS is implying that I probably should. Regardless, though, what this means is that all those different occupations we just listed, and actually there's a 13-page list of all the occupations covered. I'll throw a link to that whole PDF document. You can find it down in the description box below. But those occupations can now legally not pay taxes on the tips they collect, which is actually a big deal. One of the reasons that this whole provision was so popular during the campaign trail in the first place was that it basically provides direct relief to the actual workers in the country. Because up until now, when you receive tips, even cash tips, you were legally required to report that as
Stop it.
income on your taxes and then pay taxes on it, which could easily be as high as 20% depending on what bracket you fall into.
What is
Now,
going on?
realistically, I'm sure that
What
most
are
people were
you-
not reporting their tips
Why?
super accurately, but now they don't have to break the law when, receiving tips under the table. They can now accept the
What is
tips
this?
out in the open in a
There's no
dignified
circle
way and
nowhere.
then just not pay taxes on it. Now, the other reason, though, that this provision was so popular on the campaign trail was that while it allowed the money to basically
Okay.
stay in the pockets of the actual workers, it also didn't really affect the bottom line for the government and the IRS as a whole. Quote, congressional budget analysts project the no tax on tips provision would increase the deficit by $40 billion through 2028. The nonpartisan Joint Committee on Taxation estimated in June that the tips deduction will cost $32 billion over 10 years, which might sound like a lot. I mean, it's tens of billions of dollars. But realistically, that very same projection, it showed that 10 years from now, the annual deficit will be $2.9 trillion per year. And so the amount that this no tax on tips provision will quote unquote cost the government is basically just a rounding error. And so that's all the first story that I wanted to discuss. And again, if you want to see if your specific job qualifies for this exemption, I will throw the links to the relevant government documents that they released regarding, the full list breakdown. They'll be down in the description box below. However, there's something else tangentially related that I want to discuss here, which is that among the professions which can now accept tips and not pay taxes on them are online video creators like myself. Except not myself, because for the past 5 years now, Google, the parent company of YouTube, has completely shut down my ability to monetize this channel, Facts Matter.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, on January 20th of 2021, the very day that Joe Biden was sworn into office, which could be a complete coincidence, but it was the very day that monetization on this channel was completely stripped, which was odd. We never received a strike on this channel. We actually never even received any warnings for the content. The content, not to toot my own horn, but on this channel, we're very measured and we're very fact-based. And so I naturally thought it was a mistake, but it wasn't, because we tried to appeal this demonetization for the past 5 years now, and every single time we received the very same message from the YouTube system, that one of the other channels associated with the Epoch Times parent account broke the content policy, and therefore all the channels are collectively demonetized. But the irony is that every single channel that's associated with the Epoch Times receives that very same message. We all get told that one of the other channels broke the policy, but we never are told which one. It's like a bad joke, but the end result is that all of our programs have been demonetized for the past 5 years. But it looks like that might actually come to an end.
Oh,
All right, just to
thank
pause here for a
Christ.
super quick snack break, brought
I
to
hope
you by
so.
today's sponsor, Masa Chips. Probably the healthiest.
Hold on, I want to
eat
hear
'em.
this.
You don't /Roman, and if you use promo code Roman, you can save 25% off your first order.
Skipping
And
ads.
so again,
I
masachips.com
don't like doing it,
/Roman. Use
but
promo code Roman for 25%
I'm
off.
working right now.
And check them out. They sponsor the show. They care about getting the truth out there, and they care about your health, which is why they don't compromise in the ingredients. So check them out. And now let's head back to the episode. Just earlier this week, Google released a statement through their lawyers, you can see it up on your screen, saying that YouTube creators who were removed for their views concerning either COVID or the 2020 election can now rejoin the platform.
Heck yeah.
Here's part of what their letter said.
yeah.
And for your reference, this letter from Google, it came as a response to a subpoena that was issued by the House Judiciary Committee.
what
And
is
so
this?
letter, it's addressed to Congressman Jim
What is
Jordan,
this?
the chairman of that House committee. Quote, the COVID-19 pandemic was an unprecedented time in which online platforms had to reach decisions about how best to balance freedom of expression with responsibility, including responsibility with respect to the moderation of user-generated content that could result in real-world harm. Senior Biden administration officials, including White House officials, conducted repeated and sustained outreach to Alphabet, which is Google's parent company, and pressed the company regarding certain user-generated content related to the COVID-19 pandemic that did not violate its policies. While the company continued to develop and enforce its policies independently, Biden administration officials continued to press the company to remove non-violative user-generated content.
Fuck.
Now, just to pause here for a super quick moment, that is actually an amazing,
There we go.
simple
Yes.
worded account of what
Okay.
actually happened just several years after the fact. The letter continues.
Oh, yeah,
Quote,
that's right.
it is unacceptable and
equal
wrong when any government,
there. All right.
including the Biden administration, attempts to dictate how the company moderates content, and the company has
is the width?
consistently fought against those efforts on First Amendment grounds. In contrast to other large platforms, YouTube has not operated a fact-checking program that identifies and compensates fact-checking partners to produce content to support moderation. YouTube has not and will not empower fact-checkers to take action on or label content across the company's services. Which might technically be true, but they definitely have their own moderation mechanism. Now, in response to this letter from Google, you had Congressman Jim Jordan release his own statement saying the following, quote, "Whether you were an established YouTube presence with a massive following like Dan Bongino, or just were starting out to express political views there, you will have an opportunity to come back onto the platform if you were censored for engaging in political speech. This is another victory in the fight against censorship." And so we'll have to wait and see how this all actually plays out. The statement didn't actually address the topic of monetization or demonetization, but perhaps now that the door is open and the Overton window has shifted, we'll be able to have a discussion. If you'd like to read the full letter from Alphabet, Google's parent company, I'll throw the PDF version of it. You can find it down in the description box below, and I would recommend you read it. It's interesting. It's not that long, and it does kind of break down what happened in their view, point by point, which is kind of an interesting perspective to read. The actual company discussing it now, many years after the fact. In the meantime, though, if you'd like to support the work that we do here at the Epoch Times, well, consider subscribing. Right now, we are running a great promotional sale. You can try the Epoch Times risk-free. You can cancel anytime if you don't like it, but you will probably love it. It's a great news source that actually respects your intelligence as a person, and you can check it out by clicking on that link below in the description box. I'll throw it in there. You can click on it. It'll take you to the sale page where you can try the Epoch Times. It's a super low price just to get you on board, get you to try the content, read the articles, get hooked on the infographics, the videos there, the documentaries, including, I should mention, I mentioned it in a previous episode as well, but we have a documentary in the works that traces sort of the timeline of how the smear campaign against Charlie Kirk actually started and how it evolved. Basically, how the whole labeling of him as a far-right Nazi figure, how it started, and then how it snowballed from, let's say, like 2017 up until his obvious tragic death in the year 2025. So look out for that. That's going to be coming soon. But also we have a ton of other great documentaries on there as well. So check it out. I really hope you join the Epoch Times community. There's over 1 million people who are on board now. And so it's kind of a thriving community. Like reading the articles is great. The analysis pieces are great. But also for every article, there's a comments tab. It's sort of like a forum. And in there, you can find even more interesting takes, perspectives, and ways of thinking about events or connecting Discord events in a way that, at least when I read it, I find it really enlightening, and I'm like, oh, I never thought about it that way before. And sometimes the comment section is even better than the articles, is what I'm saying. So check it out. Again, the link to that sale page will be down there in the description box below. Until we get our demonetization, that's sort of the way we have to grow and fund ourselves. But I actually will say, because because we got demonetized, we had to build this whole sort of infrastructure of our own, basically to grow the Epoch Times as a newspaper brand by itself, sort of separate from all these different social media platforms. And in hindsight, many years removed, that was the smartest decision, because all these other media companies, they're getting decimated. They're like at the whims of social media companies. Now that Google is really leveraging AI tools in their search. And so that's basically when you ask a question on Google, it basically just compiles everything and it gives you an AI answer, so nobody's even clicking into the search results anymore as much. I've seen stats that like search traffic is down something crazy, like 50 to 70% for news sites because of that. But because we were censored on search for so long, we never even really spent time building out that part of the business. So the Epoch Times really just built a subscription model. And so we were able to basically, not have to skirt around all these different social media platforms and like the censorship tactics that they sort of like tangentially enforce on their media partners. And so in hindsight, it was like the most brilliant move for the company to do. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that we really built out this great infrastructure that's now global. We have reporters in like 30 different countries, and we were able to report the news in a way that many other media can't or weren't able to, or maybe they didn't want to. I can't speak for them, but the way we reported, I really enjoy. I really appreciate it. I read the Epoch Times every single day, not just because I work there, but because I actually love the content. So check it out. That's kind of a long-winded pitch at the end. Hope you check it out. Hope you join. You're able to join me there. And then until next time, I'm your host Roman from the Epoch Times. Stay informed, and most importantly, stay free.
A little bit longer. More. There we go. Okay.
I'll show you the ropes, kid.
All right, advertisements. Quit being so fucking loud. Okay, next video is a chat with a mad lad. Count Dankula, the Alaskan adventurer.
Moment without having to worry about all of my progress getting wrecked while I'm offline. And like that, whenever I play, collecting the large roster of past and future Mad Lads provides a constant sense of progression, especially since the sheer number of heroes available allows me to combine abilities in ways that will make people very, very upset in the PvP mode. And not only does the gameplay provide a surprising amount of strategic depth, but it's all framed in a time travel narrative featuring big brains like Nikola Tesla and Albert Einstein, especially in the game's latest event celebrating the moon landing between the 6th and 27th of August, wherein you will do battle with Tesla after Einstein discovers that he's trying to sabotage the moon landing and change history. Throughout the event, you will earn points and compete in 3 weekly leaderboards by building your cultural event city, fighting Tesla, or fighting other players in PvP mode, with the ultimate goal of upgrading your Sky Disk of Nebra to level 10. If you're successful, the rewards will flow, including powerful relics and increased chances to pull 4 and 5-star heroes. With such great rewards, there isn't a better time to get started, and all you have to do to get in on the action is unlock village technology at the start of the Bronze Age. So, if you think you've got what it takes to lead civilization into prosperity and maybe pull Cleopatra in the process, then click the link in the description box down below or scan the QR code on the screen to start playing Heroes of History. It's not very often we actually get to sit down and talk to an actual mad lad that we've covered on the channel, but today we've managed to finally track down Jason Vukovic, aka the Alaskan Avenger, aka MC Hammer. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Trust me, every day that I'm free, I'm grateful for.
Good, that's good, man. And you said it was last October that you got out for a little while.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I've been out about 7 or 8 months. Basically, in the state of Alaska, when you do a significant portion of your sentence, you can apply for what's called discretionary parole. And basically, I did 41 classes, showed exceptional rehabilitative progress. So they've let me come out to serve my last 3 years of prison time on electronic monitoring in the community.
All right, that's good. And we've already covered the certain things you won't be able to talk about because of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Believe me. Yeah. I'm well supervised out here in the world. Trust and believe.
Yeah. No. Don't worry. Everybody watching is going to definitely understand that. You've got a lot of fans here on the channel, so everyone wants you out of prison for as long as possible. But I just wanted to start sort of like from the beginning because
do something really
whenever
weird here.
whenever I do the Mad Lad videos, I try and cover the person's early life, you know, where they were born, what their life was like growing up, the events that kind of led to the events that they did later in their life. So if you just want to like run through a little bit of that, you know, where you were born, your childhood, and things like that.
Sure. Yeah, I was born and raised here in Alaska. And I was adopted when I was young. My natural father, I never knew the guy. And the person that adopted me, they were heavily involved in the Christian church up here. They were missionary people. So my childhood was spent a lot inside of a church. Monday, Sunday, Thursday, home fellowships, Christian school, and sort of tied up with all of that Christianity and biblical stuff was all kinds of physical and sexual abuse that was going on. It started about 6 months or a year after my mother met this guy who was a church guy, came into our lives. And so, you know, from a young age, maybe being up here in Alaska was a good opportunity for me because up here, I was able to leave and go commercial fishing and go work for big game guides. And bro, I was gone from the house as much as I possibly could be from 11 or 12 years old until I climbed out the window and ran away from home when I was 14 or 15. But suffice it to
Okay.
say, call it a cult,
2-inch.
call it what you will, but I was
We're gonna
raised
do
under the
2.00
extreme umbrella of
Right,
religiosity
just to cover it.
mixed with abuse. And that is
I
something
don't
that's
know
actually
what's-
pretty common in our world, sadly. But it set me up and it sets everybody up for this
Okay, so
weird
that's going
psychological
below.
battle. Because the people
And
that
that's right on the
represent
money.
God in your life are the
I
ones
don't like
perpetrating
that.
the abuse. So
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
had problems with that over here as well. We've had
Yeah.
yeah, most of the Catholic Church over here. We've had problems with that over here as well.
yeah,
1 inch.
yeah, it's. I'm telling you right now, based on my experiential knowledge growing up in it, you cannot have any sort of system set up where people relate to the deity and they speak for the
No,
deity.
no,
It's too
no,
much
no,
power
stop it!
for people to process or handle. Just human beings were not intended
This can't move.
to
Why
represent
can't this? Why can't
the
this move?
deity here on
don't
Earth.
want
That's
that.
not how it's supposed to work.
No.
Especially
I don't want that.
when it's parents and kids. And bro, the church I went to, they interpreted this book that they've got a certain
Okay.
type of way, and
All right, that goes
I
below.
remember being beaten
Hell
with
yeah.
2x4s
Okay.
most
All
of my
right, please
childhood.
work.
And they would bust out this scripture and say, well, foolishness is
Yes.
bound up in the heart of a child, and
No.
the rod of correction drives it far from him.
Stop it.
So in my little head, I'm thinking, okay, so
The result has
God
multiple
says you can beat
solids.
the shit out of us. All right, you know that's
Yeah.
literally what you grow up thinking. So, fortunately,
I got it.
What?
yeah, at a certain point, like I took off and started. I started with weed. That was my first medicinal
Can't do negative.
outlet
Reversed.
to heal my soul and make the pain go away. I started
There
with
we go.
weed and I smoked tough for 25 years. And then eventually that moved on to, hey,
Oh,
let's
oh,
snort a
shit.
little bit of meth.
Oh,
let's
it fucking
try
worked.
that. And you know,
Let's see if
drugs
this is actually.
were probably the most immediate fix as far as the pain I was dealing with and the confusion I was dealing with, because it just took
Okay.
me to a completely different space and I didn't even have to worry about that shit.
Come on.
So I very quickly went down this path. Another thing too is,
Man.
aside from the practicality of living as a runaway, when you've
All
been
right, what I can
beaten
do.
like a farm animal for most of your childhood, you've got it pretty well seated in your mind
this.
that you are worthless and you're worth nothing.
Okay.
Nobody ever had to say that out loud to me. I
All right.
was just given that impression after that many years
Coolio.
of abuse. So things like, hey bro, brush your teeth. Give a shit about your credit score. Don't break the law. All those sorts of things, bro.
Yeah.
Not even relevant to my experience, because deep down in my soul, I knew I was worthless. Didn't matter anyway. So I had to go out, bro, and learn
Yeah.
every
There we go,
single
that one.
thing by making the wrong choice first.
Um,
That's how I learned. I made
Well,
the
that was
wrong
it.
on
choice.
that one.
There was a
Almost
thing we
every
found in the
time.
research as well. I know that your brother Joel,
Yeah.
he blew the whistle on the abuse when you were younger, and he went
Yeah.
to the police, and it
Yeah.
was what was his name, Larry? I think his
Yeah,
name was Larry.
Larry.
He ended, he got a 3-year suspended prison sentence for all of that
Yeah.
horrendous shit that he did, and then
Yeah.
everyone in the family hated Joel for snitching.
Oh, absolutely. Hated on me for testifying against him. Hated on my brother for ratting him out. And what actually, yeah, what actually happened was my brother climbed out the window and ran away with his girlfriend, stealing my mom's car. Well, it's Alaska, so they got stuck in a snowbank within like 6 hours. The cops got
Yeah.
called, and when they showed up, my brother basically told him, I don't give a fuck where you take me. You're not taking me back to that house, and proceeded to tell him what happened. So that's how the abuse got reported. And again, not unlike happens all the time nowadays, sadly, the church
Amazing.
threw
I love
down
it.
for
I love
his
it when it does that.
attorney, provided an attorney for him, hauled my brother and I both in and told us not to say anything, that he had repented, and so we needed to forgive him. Um, all type of bullshit, bro. All type of bullshit.
Yeah.
It was crazy, but um, Joel never came home again. And it's a sad thing because my brother, my older brother, was my best friend. That was my dude. And from the day he left home, other than that picture you see of myself and him in the courtroom, I have never seen him again, ever, never. That's how powerful and how long lasting childhood abuse is. To this very day, after he came and testified at my sentencing, he visited me after the hearing and he said, "Bro, listen, just the sound of your voice and seeing your face again brings back all that trauma and all that pain that I got myself away from." He's like, "So I'm sorry, but I can't be in your life, man. I can't be in your life." And I've never seen him again, ever.
Holy shit, man. Really?
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
true.
I can kind of get where he's coming from, but like that's not your fault, man. Like that's
Yeah,
fucking like that's it's your brother. Like
I've tried to be very understanding, okay, and be like, yes,
yeah.
however he needs to seek his healing or whatever. But check this out. I didn't touch your pee-pee, homeboy. Quit being a big pussy and reach out to your brother. Like, come on, man. For real. Seriously? Seriously,
Yeah.
bro. I'm
Yeah,
50
no.
years old. 50 years old. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, no, that's kind of fucked. Half of me sees where he's coming from, but half of me sees that as like a little bit shit. But I
Yeah.
definitely want to talk about that picture later on once we actually get up to the trial. But I want to go. The part I want to talk about is you ran away from home. You said that you climbed out the window
Yeah.
and you just left. You left Alaska,
Yeah.
didn't you?
Yeah. Actually, I like I said, I did every single thing I could to not be home. So they had me in homeschool, but I would go pack moose for big game guides, brown bear, black bear, mountain goat, sheep. That got me out of the house like 6 months. Then I would do long line for halibut, set net for salmon. So I was only home like 3 months of the year when I was 13, 14 years old. And while I was home, I would do homeschool and I would go bag groceries at the grocery store. Well, at 14 years old, I met some girl, of course. And after a couple of weeks, I got to telling her what was going on in my house. And she was outraged and she was like, "Oh my God, we've got to get you out of there. That's terrible." Um, and that's some of the psychology of abuse because up until she said it, I didn't even consider leaving, bro. I never even thought
Yeah.
of running away as a possibility. And then this girl comes into my life and tells me, "We got to get you out of there. You should leave." And it was like a light bulb moment for me. And I was like, damn, you're right. I got to get out of here. So,
That's the case with like a lot of kids that have just grown up and known nothing else. They don't know that
yeah,
what they have at home isn't normal. They don't know that
yeah,
that isn't normal, and then it's
yeah,
only when they get an outside perspective, everyone's like,
yeah,
"What the fuck are you
yeah,
doing? Run the fuck away!" Like yeah.
yeah.
That's why
I didn't
abusers
even
try and
know. And
separate
then,
kids from the outside world.
yeah,
Yeah,
and then to further compound the mind fuck, for lack of a better term, when your father, stepfather, gets hauled to court and convicted, and then the judge says, "Okay, cool, suspended sentence," and sends him right back to the house, you really start to think in your mind, like, wow, maybe these people are right. And I've been wrong this whole time because the judge didn't even
yeah,
take him away from our house,
What's with the random
yeah.
just plus sign
So,
there?
needless to say, she
Why?
pulled up outside my house in her
Why?
little pickup truck one night.
And why when
I
I try to
climbed out the
delete it,
window,
it resets
and
everything?
we ended up flying to Spokane, Washington, a couple thousand miles away. And I started out my life 15 years old. I had no ID. I had no birth certificate. I had nothing. Um, and so my parents had made sure they kept all of that stuff because they said they didn't want to aid me on my flight with the devil, I think is how they referred it to it.
Right.
Um,
Escaping abuse. Yeah.
right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, being a little more mature now, I probably should have sought out like some sort of state agencies or something that would have helped kids. At the time, I was terrified because I thought if I went to some state agency, they would haul me back to Alaska. So I remember I got a job as a telemarketer of all things. And after 2 weeks, the guy and I did a great job, not surprisingly. The guy was like, well, here's your paycheck right here in my hand, but I cannot give it to you until you provide me with ID. I have to have your social security card. I have to have something. So I walked out of that building, bro, and I remember driving down the street on my motorcycle. We were starving. We had no money, nowhere to go. And I just thought to myself, where is some place that people go and leave money behind? And just like a terrible, incredible idea, I was like, oh, wow, the health club, bro, the gym. So that day I started going to health clubs and stealing wallets and doing credit card fraud. And it started me down a path of being a thief and a liar and a criminal for some number of years, bro. I probably did that shit for 4 or 5 years in many states all up and down the West Coast. I just started stealing credit cards and scamming for a living, fundamentally because I had no ID, no way to get an identification. And so
the guy in that
sadly,
telemarketer place scammed you. He scammed you though. Like he knew for a fact you had no ID. I'll let him work for 2 weeks and say, "Oh, I totally want to pay you," but
What
you
the
know,
heck?
like he totally fucked you over.
Hold on.
probably, and I probably
Hold on, I'm gonna have to end
inadvertently
stream.